Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to Counterpick, Counterattack, Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike, go.
Counterattack striking.
Yep. This is everybody's favorite CSGO podcast. So this is Switcheroo week. So, of course, myself and Proud, hello Proud,
Hi.
are doing Roland and Cyphus' show, Counterattack. We, of course, played our game. Proud, did you get a chance to listen to them do Theory Crafting Thursday?
Yeah, did you see my Twitter at all?
Yeah, I vaguely remember you tweeting about it, but I think this was eye-opening. It was interesting to see them attempt to do our show, and it was interesting for us to do their show. I think we can agree. This has been a fun week. I think it's been easier on the both of us though, for the most part. Like Cyphus has had to do a lot of recording, and Roland's had to do some work, but you and I get to sit back and relax.
Yeah, basically.
For the most part. I mean, you had to do the Tuesday Q&A, but
I got to wear like a blazer and a tie and shit. That was great.
Yeah, the blazer was impressive. I'll say that.
Thank you. I bought that when Rabbit was here in California. We went out and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a blazer. And then I bought a blazer. So.
I've been meaning to buy one for a while. Anyway,
it's nice.
I was a little disappointed that Cyphus, who of course hosted Theory Crafting Thursday, did not start the show like we do, where he's like, "Oh, welcome to everybody's favorite beauty podcast."
Yeah, well, he got into it. He tried to make an Elite Dangerous podcast. He like remembered how to do that halfway in.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been fun. This is, of course, the last day of podcast. We will be doing Switcheroo week for Sunday's team stream, where I will be shot calling. Proud and I will be playing supports. Roland and Cyphus are going to be playing mid and carry. And then Growdy is still the offlaner.
And Growdy's still going to play Centaur.
Yeah. I just think it's so much funnier that it worked out that way. Like, unintentionally, of course, but just the way numbers work. Yeah. Turns out the 3 stays the 3 when you reverse it. Anyway, let's get into this. It's always awkward. I mean, since we're so used to doing the Thursday show where, like, we record and then we break to play the game, then we record again, it's hard to just jump into talking about the game, but let's do that.
Okay.
So we did Counterpicker, which is a new experience for both of us, right? Neither of us had ever used this website or anything similar.
Yeah, I would say so.
I will never be using it again. I don't think.
I will not be a repeat shopper.
Yes, so let's talk about Team Comp. Actually, also just fun aside, we actually ended up playing 2 games of this, because in the first game there was an abandon at like 10 minutes. And so we ended up playing 2 games. The first game obviously was a win because we had abandoned, and then the second game was a loss. The team comps were thus: enemy team at the end of the draft, of course, had Nyx, Invoker, AM, Alchemist, Rubik, which everybody basically that has played Dota would say, hey, that's a bad team comp, right? We were talking about it in the game. They had 2 mids and an AM, and one of those mids was an Alchemist who's super greedy, and then they still had an Invoker and an AM. They're 3 super greedy heroes. By all common sense, Dota picker themselves, they would say, wow, what a terrible team comp. They should lose.
Yeah, they gave us a lot of heroes that had a lot of advantage. So it was very weird to see any hero that wasn't like highly advantaged in this situation.
Yeah. And our team ended up being Crystal Maiden, Ogre Magi, Monkey King, Shadow Fiend, and Juggernaut. Shadow Fiend played by me, and Juggernaut played by Proud, of course. And again, you'll see we did not have an offlaner. But we ended up playing like this off-lane, dual-lane thing, and you got dual-laned, and it was a whole mess. But anyway, we ended up losing this game. We took some early advantages, as one can imagine, being that their team comp's a mess. But the fact of the matter is that team comps in pubs are not that vital to success, because people are bad.
Yeah, people are really bad.
The Radiant team, with their absolute mess of a team comp that should not in any sense of the matter work, they won because our teammates were idiots, and also I did not play great either. My Shadow Fiend
played great.
I mean, you were beyond godlike at one point, but
yep.
So let's talk about this. I mean, I didn't actually record exactly the Dota picker stats that were being given up. I'm sure if you watch the VOD, you'll hear us talk about them at the beginning. But do you remember the gist of what the top carries were going to end up being? Remember, there's a lot of Lycan until the last pick.
Yeah, so Lycan was kind of far up there. I mean, I had to pick pretty early because we had our 2 supports picked, and then our guy who eventually played Monkey King didn't pick anything. So it was they had Invoker and Nyx picked and nothing else, and it was like, so you should play Juggernaut here. And I was like, all right. I mean, it's great against Nyx, and I'm not going to die to a meatball combo against Invoker because I can, press Q in the middle of it. So, sure, I'll go that. And if we like finished out the draft basically and took Juggernaut out, he's still 2% advantaged or whatever, 2.5 or something. But like the best carry, quote unquote, would be Clinks, which is actually just fucking wrong. Clinks would have been an awful carry here. What kind of fucking idiot says Clinks is good against Nyx Assassin? Invoker, Anti-Mage? No, Clinks is not good against any of those heroes. And then it was like, yo, go Ursa. I'm like, yeah, Ursa against Anti-Mage. This sounds like a really fucking great idea. Troll Warlord against Nyx. I mean, it'd be okay, but it's not fantastic. And PA is pretty good here. That one I agree with. It's like a 10% advantage to go PA. I don't know.
Yeah. So I really get a kick out of the fact that we used Dota Picker, and in the first game that we played, we ended up having some weird picks. You played Wraith King and I played Phoenix, but obviously that game didn't pan out, so we're not even really going to go into that. But this game, Dota Picker basically just said to pick the two most generic heroes and said, oh, they're advantaged. Because like Shadow Fiend and Juggernaut are the kind of heroes that you can basically pick in any game, right? Like sometimes they're obviously better or worse, but they're some of the most consistent heroes in the entire pool for safe lane and mid.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little wonky. The mids that were up there were mostly just Shadow Fiend, actually. We were talking about it, and even Shadow Fiend wasn't that high until I picked last, until the very last moment.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the mids were not anything thrilling. And even we were talking about like the mid matchup, what's called Alchemist versus Shadow Fiend is not super good for Shadow Fiend.
It's awful. It's
not good at all.
I think it is Alchemist's best matchup. I cannot think of any matchup on Alchemist that I like any more than against Shadow Fiend. Is there one?
Off the top of my head, no. I mean, there are similarly good matchups.
Like remotely decent mids. Like I can't think of one.
I mean, I would say Alchemist does similarly well against probably Zeus. Invoker is okay against Alk, but the thing about a lot of Alk matchups is once he's 6, it's just irrelevant. Like if you counter the hero, unless you're playing super hard.
Okay, so Alk's thing is that like once as the lane progresses, it gets easier and easier for him, and it's easier for him to acid spray you out. And like he can transition to jungle. Like he just needs to win the early laning phase, and then he's fucking gone. Yeah, and Shadow Fiend doesn't win the early laning phase. Shadow Fiend is shit until the late laning phase. And then once Shadow Fiend is good, the way that he's good is he just spams your wave out, and then you take another tower. That like Alchemist is so in love with every single aspect of that. Alchemist wants someone who's not going to deny him early. He's just going to get all the last hits. Like he gets Quelling Blade, Stout Shield, and then he can get every last hit that he's going to get. He doesn't even care about denies. Shadow Fiend can get all of their last hit. Like Alchemist can just trade farm with the Shadow Fiend, doesn't even care. And then once Shadow Fiend's spamming the waves out, Alchemist can just take them under tower, go to a jungle camp, go get a bounty rune. Like it doesn't give a shit. There's no world in which a Shadow Fiend is at all advantaged in that matchup. It's just not good for Shadow Fiend.
Yeah.
So Dota Picker gave us the worst matchup possible.
Magnus was also pretty high on the chart, which probably
that's also like the only other mid that like Alchemist Magnus is a shit mid. Magnus is not a good mid hero except for in a couple very rare circumstances, but there's no, like what does Magnus do to Alchemist? I mean, maybe you empower yourself and you can like get denies because you have some extra damage, but that's it. That's just not a good matchup either.
You can, Magnus versus any mid laner, any melee mid, you can get if you play it right and they misplay once, then you can get the nice little kill easily with skewer backwards.
Yeah, but how are you going to end the game with Magnus mid? Again, look at these cores, and Magnus is never going to end that game. Like it's so like you can't fight an Alchemist with with a setup mid. Like you can't fight Alchemist with like Puck. You don't want to dream coil an Alchemist and then say like, all right, now you guys do everything for me. Like, no, that's the one person that's your carry. Your carry is going to do everything, and that's one human, and they're not going to kill the Alchemist. So you need. Anyway, it's so bad. That's such a what I would say to this. I guess OD wouldn't be that great against the Nyx.
Yeah, OD
but I mean,
if the Knicks wasn't there, OD would definitely be the pick.
oh,
Even
for
with the
sure.
Knicks, though, I think OD wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah, I mean, you get a BKB, you're fine. I don't know. I mean, like they have like 5 cores or whatever, right? Like everything's gonna look bad, and like when you really come down to it, I feel like if you just went like Viper and we just pushed, it would have been good. Viper was up there, and I think I agree with that.
I mean, even Shadow Fiend was fine if we just pushed, but we had issues doing that because, and we always kind of joke about how this show and Theory Crafting Thursday Theory Crafting Thursday to a greater extent than Counterattack normally devolves into just being like, dude, our teammates were so bad, but the teammates we had were not great.
I mean, we didn't have an offlaner. It was like 4 picks in, and then I said, hey, by the way, guys, we don't have an offlaner because we picked 2 4s and a 5, and the 5 decided to jungle, and I was like 1v2 against a Nyx and an Invoker, and I still killed them. Like, what a stupid ass game. Anyway, yeah, and like the counter picker. So if you look specifically in lanes, it gives you a better sense of it. But here, so your Shadow Fiend's out, and as far as cores go, yeah, Shadow Fiend's kind of far down there, and it has an overall like plus 5.3, but it actually only has a 0.5 like countering advantage. Like it says it doesn't really counter these. It just synergizes with our team really well. And worrying about what synergizes with a 3 support team maybe isn't the best thing to look at. But also, I don't know, there's just like not a lot of great options. I feel like Viper, it says Viper is a great counter to what they have, but it doesn't synergize with what we have for whatever fucking reason, which I completely disagree with. But I mean, yeah, like Viper would have been a good pick. Dragon Knight, not good. TA, they think TA counters this a little bit maybe, but not really. I don't know. There's just like no mids that it thinks are good here. It thinks OD would suck. Disagree strongly. It didn't think Sniper would be good here. I guess against AM and Nyx, it wouldn't be that great.
You can play the PA mid.
Yeah, PA would have been okay.
He's not terrible. But
oh man, it says you shouldn't play Razor. Razor would have been a fucking great pick here.
But I mean, I think Razor's win rates are just low overall, because I assume these are just aggregate from Dota buff.
I don't know.
Stats or something. I mean, obviously I don't know, but it is actually interesting now. I just put the entire team into Dota Picker without factoring in my teammates, right? I just have their enemy team. And yeah, it is a plus 9.8 percentage on PA, plus 8.3 on Viper, plus 8.3 on Clinks. We're on the classic Clinks mid. Yeah. But yeah. This game was just it was just miserable. like it's one of those games where you clearly acknowledge, like, hey, we should have won this game, but we didn't because of X, Y, and Z. And it was just brutal, honestly. Also, I had to mid against freaking Alchemist, dude. And Alchemist is one of these heroes that's so unfun to play against. Like, people complain about it constantly, honestly, on Twitter, even pro players. Especially pro players, I would say, actually. I see it more from them than anybody else. But his concept is just so astoundingly different and messed up. Like, it's just absurd. Like, Alchemist and Meepo, dude, they're at the top of my list of heroes that just should not be how they are.
Yeah, I mean, just leaning against Acid Spray is so just like obnoxious. I mean, it's plopped down there, and you're like, so what do I do?
Yeah, it's one of those things where theoretically you're like, all right, well, I'm just gonna pull creep aggro a little far back, and I'll stand out of it. But in practice, that's never what happens. Like you just have to suck it up and tank Acid Spray to some extent, at least. And then it's like, oh, he hit 6, I can't kill him anymore. And then you think you can, and then you devote a bunch of things to killing him, and then it doesn't work because it's an alchemist. It's just an incredible hassle.
Man, I thought they were like destroying bottom lane, but AM had higher net worth than me when I had like 3 kills and like was getting really good CS.
Yeah, AM got a double kill early because they were diving a whole bunch.
Oh, okay.
And big surprise, that didn't go great. I think they got first blood, or we got first blood because we rotated. But then they killed a couple times, and then they died. 2 of them died. It was just a mess. But it's one of those things where, and this actually, let's get to overall Dota talk compared to talking about specifically our game. But classically, what you do against any greedy team comp or any bad team comp is you just punish them, right, early because of their greed, right? And I guess to wrap it up better, actually, is if you are reaching 20 minutes and one team has a super greedy team comp and your team does not have a greedy team comp, and yet you're not winning the game, you're gonna lose basically, barring extenuating circumstances. In probably, let's say, 75 to 85% of games, if you have a team comp that is designed to take a big lead, and you don't have that lead by the point that you're supposed to, you're screwed, right? Like if you're 45 minutes into a game and you have a push comp and they have a Spectre, you're gonna have a bad time. And that's just what happened in our game, honestly. Like we had a lead at one point and we just squandered it.
I got to top net worth against AM and Alka at some point, and I kind of put it all in. I was like, I'm gonna get a Dominator, I'm gonna get a Deso, and we're just gonna fucking try to find some towers. And it was good. Like I killed a tier 2 while they were trying to siege a tier 1. I got my tier 1 early. We took all their outer towers, and then when we were trying to high ground, like we got Aegis, and then we tried to high ground. And I got rebuffed once, nothing bad happened, and then they started ratting, and it was then it just all went downhill from there, because 4.3k supports do not know how to deal with ratting at the same time, so it was just completely disorganized and a huge clusterfuck of awful situations.
Yeah, and the enemy team had heroes that are designed specifically to deal with a team, to make a team discoordinated.
They had like, so I mean the worst thing in Dota is when the enemy team just has more health than your team is capable of killing, and an anti-mage, an invoker, and an alchemist, like that's, if they are not all going to fall over immediately, there are more like nodes that need to be dealt with within those 3 heroes than 3 supports will ever be able to take care of. Like my Omni Slash has a damage cap on it. It's only going to do so many hits. You sort of have unlimited damage, but and I can't stay like, I can't be meleeing an alchemist while Invoker is throwing spells at me and an anti-mage with a basher is hitting me, right? So like you cannot, they just have more shit than I myself can kill. Like there's no way my Omni Slash can kill an alchemist and an anti-mage. It doesn't have that much damage in it. And so, like, in order to counter that, you need your team to, like, provide some amount of AoE damage or just, like, something to kind of circumvent that issue. And that is just not going to happen when you have 3 supports. So, eventually we lost because we had 3 supports and they had 4 cores and 7 years ago, an actual good scaling team.
Yeah, man, just thinking about this game hurts my soul, I'll be honest.
Yeah, you were probably more tilty than I've seen you in a while.
It was just so in Dota, right, everybody has their period of the game that's fun. Like some heroes are really strong in landing phase, other heroes are really strong in the late game. I just didn't hit any of those points ever. and it was just one of those stupid things where theoretically how to win this game and it just does not work. There's no way. Maybe we should have done what they did yesterday and picked 3 of our friends to come and play in this game and make it into a full .p5 stack. Oh, that would have made this game real easy. But alas, that's not what we did. How do they talk about one game for an hour, dude? Honestly, I don't even know. I've listened to every episode of Counterattack.
Well, because they don't really understand it, so they have to like go into Dota buff and like figure out why. But we're just like, well, this was stupid. Here's why it was stupid.
Yeah. All right. That's about it, honestly.
Yeah, there's not a lot to this. A machine didn't know how to pick well, and it was like, hey, they have 3 mids. Which one is gonna? Because like, I mean, if you look at this, you say, okay, it's either Invoker mid and Alchemist jungle or whatever. Like it's kind of a crapshoot. But normally you say that, okay, the person that's picking Alchemist probably like, and they were their 5k. It was relatively obvious the Alchemist was going to go mid. But of course Dota Picker doesn't know that, and baseline psychology is not within its it's not like it's gonna right click on the people that we were up against and notice that that's their 5k, so they're going to mid. So it's like, I don't know if Shadow Fiend's good against Invoker and Invoker's a mid, right? And then that wasn't the case, and that's that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm kind of at a loss. So let's just talk about our week in Dota, right? Unless you have something more to talk about Dota Picker and all this. I'm kind of tapped, honestly. Like we clearly established that this was horribly wrong. Like a really bad tool, right? Like if I think it's very limiting.
No. Like I just think it's actually like straight up bad in general, and I can tell you why. If you are good enough to know how to play a large variety of heroes, then you probably are good enough to not need this tool. If you are not at the point where you can play a large variety of heroes, then this tool is worthless because you aren't going to be able to play the heroes that it tells you to play well. Like the first game that we played where they abandoned, you picked like Phoenix, and you don't play Phoenix, so you would have been better off with a shitty hero for the game and just had it not be Phoenix.
Yeah, actually, for the sake of it, we'll go over those team comps. Just because, I mean, it's still in application. We still did go through the drafting phase, even though the game didn't continue. So we ended up playing Phoenix Wraith King. We had a Sniper, a Centaur, and a CM on our team. And the enemy team was Earthshaker, Witch Doctor, PA, Sand King, Shadow Fiend. And honestly, I don't think Phoenix was a good pick this game.
I think it was like okay because
think it was bad, but
PA actually, despite her having a lot of attack speed in her W, she has no attack speed outside of that, so she's never going to kill the egg.
SF's real good at it though.
Yeah, SF is good at it. Witch Doctor has good range also, and if Witch Doctor has the Voodoo Restoration on, he's not going to just get ticked down by your dot damage. So I agree, it's not great. And also Wraith King is just like bad, and they had like a shit ton of stuns. I don't know, it didn't look great to me either, but it was like, you should play Wraith King. I said, okay. And I don't know, man, whatever.
Yeah.
Stupid ass concept.
As much as I enjoy listening to this show, and I think it works for Cyphus and Roland, I really I'm very glad that we don't, because
they're like show every week. They're like learning as they do it, but for us it's like, I mean, this is stupid.
That's actually something that I think I have opinions about. I think I have opinions. Let's suss them out. So you were just talking about how you don't like the system, and I completely agree that it's not good for the reasons you listed. But I'm also kind of in the camp that I feel as though using a tool like Dota Picker or anything like that, it stifles growth in a way that you are not intellectually playing the game and playing the draft phase. You are just inputting things and saying, okay, well, this percentage is high. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, obviously the counter to that, the excuse would just be somebody saying, well, I'm learning about counters through using this, but it's like...
But it's wrong.
Yeah.
So you're not. You're learning the wrong thing about counters.
Yeah, but even when it's right, like even let's say let's say they suggest the perfect mid to play, it's like math in that they don't, if you put the right answer down, that's not necessarily correct because you need to show all your work, right? Because the work is what's important. You could just pull the number numerically. So the same thing with a website like Dota Picker or any of these tools that, or even just using guides in game, for instance, or even just following us religiously and just saying, okay, well, what do they do every game? That stifles your own intellectual growth with Dota, right? Because you're not thinking through why the answers are the answers.
It makes me think of like the debate between quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative is when you just have a very large sample size and you just like, a survey where, or I mean, even just in this exact example of Dota, 5% of that, or like against this team, this, if you look at all the hundreds of games, there's a win rate that goes in this direction. And that's how you can, if you want to identify what talent I should go. This talent is picked some percent of the time and it has this much higher a win rate, therefore it's better. However, if you have like a qualitative thing where you talk to people or you like try to gain a deeper understanding of why these things are, you would say, it's actually just when people are losing, they're more often to take this defensive talent or some shit like that. Yeah. And because of that, they're already predisposed to lose a game where they're already losing. However, if they didn't go this talent in this losing game, they would lose it 70% of the time. However, if they take this talent when they're losing, instead they only lose it 55% of the time. So actually it's the correct decision, but from a quantitative standpoint, if you just look at the raw statistics, it doesn't make as much sense. And Dota Picker makes me think of a very similar thing. Like, yes, you can know the numbers behind these things, but I think Dota is a way more qualitative than a quantitative game. The numbers are definitely really interesting to kind of like lead you into a path to try to logic through things, but they're definitely not like the end result of a logic chain. Like they're a fine starting point, like, okay, why might this be? Not, here's the percentage, end of conversation, this is the best thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's not like in WoW, right? Because both of us played WoW. But in WoW, right, you'd have the optimal rotation. At a certain point in a patch, you'd say, okay, this is what I need to be doing right now. Ideally, I'm going to hit this benchmark given my gear. In Dota, though, it's very like, okay, well, the ideal, I suppose, is this, but situationally, you're going to have to change things drastically. And Dota, I mean, any system like any quantitative system just misses out on nuance, right? Fundamentally, that's just what you lose out on, right? It's great to have data, but the data is not perfect, right? Like exactly like you said. So that's really the core issue, right? The issue is that's the umbrella, right? Then the issue, or then there are multiple issues that go downwards. But boy, yeah, I'm just kind of, I'm all askew mentally from this game and this experience.
You got quite affected, I will say.
I look things up constantly, like, so for instance, that Phoenix game, right? I don't play Phoenix, but I was going to play it for this show. Whatever.
I would just like to point out, we are against an Invoker and a Nyx Assassin. Would you like to guess how much gold was spent on detection on our team?
Less than 500.
It was 100. One Sentry Ward was purchased all game against a Nyx and an Invoker, who routinely escaped for no discernible reason.
And we had 3 supports. How much money did the enemy team spend on detection for just me?
For just your Shadowblade, they had, 12 Sentry Wards and 1 Dust for just your 1 Shadowblade.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, what a game, dude. What a game. I'm reeling.
Yep, that's special. I want to see, was this the initial, like... Yep, it was just the Sentry Ward purchase at like the 0-minute mark. There was no additional detection bot. So the only detection we had was when there was no actual way for them to go invisible. After that, we were like, fuck it. We don't need shit. We got Frostbite. That'll discern where they are.
God, just thinking about this is like re-tilting me.
Yep.
Oh, boy, okay. I'm just looking at this match screen, and I just keep seeing Alchemist and thinking of myself in acid spray, and my brain is going to explode. Okay, boy, how much? I want them to nerf that hero so bad. They keep nerfing him, and it's just not enough, right? They're like, all right, well, Grievel's Greed doesn't work on Manta illusions anymore, or illusions in general. That just doesn't matter. People are still like, oh, well, I'm gonna build Manta anyway. Who cares? Screw you, Ice Frog. It's just infuriating, man. Okay.
He's a strong boy.
He's a real good hero, it turns out. What else, dude? What else? What is our alternative for Dota Picker? Since we've just kind of been crapping on it this whole time, what... I mean, obviously, without just saying, well, just pick better, like, just be smarter at Dota, that's not really a productive...
I mean, okay, so someone was asking in a... I'm going to get out of this replay, I have actually no interest in watching it. So someone was asking in chat, they said, Proud says, just play like a few heroes or something, but should I have a few heroes for each role? And I'd say, yeah, for each role you're interested in playing, get a couple heroes that take care of most situations. Like, for offlane right now, I don't even have 3. I only play 2 offlaners right now. I play Magnus and I play Centaur. Honestly, I just play Centaur.
I only play Mag, so I'm in the same boat.
So, I mean, if I'm against a Lifestealer, I might play Magnus instead of Centaur, because Magnus can get away from, he gets he gets open wounds, and then he charges away. For everyone else, Centaur is great. Centaur sucks against Lifestealer, because Lifestealer's Feast, he does more damage the more HP someone has. It's like an anti-dude with a ton of HP mechanic. Centaur is a dude with a ton of HP. So I try to not go Centaur against Lifestealer. So I have 2 heroes, and I say, okay, if it's not Lifestealer, I'll go Centaur. It's good against almost everything. If it is Lifestealer, I'll probably go Magnus, and I might still even go Centaur. If I'm playing support, if it's support and I need, lockdown against a Storm Spirit or an Anti-Mage, I'll probably go Disruptor. If it's not, I'll go like Lion or Venge or something. And if I need to play a roaming 4, I'll play Slardar or maybe Ogre Magi. That's it. That's it. If I need to be a Blink Initiator, if we have a Magnus or something, I'll go Slardar. If we have a bunch of initiating stun already, and I just need to buff someone up, and I need to be tanky so I don't get roamed on, I'll go Ogre Magi. Yeah, that's it. If I'm going to play mid, and I'll play OD unless it's a bad OD matchup, and then I'll play Shadow Fiend probably.
Yeah, I think it would be actually really cool if a site like Dota Picker had a. And for all I know, maybe they have this, and I assume they don't, though. It would be cool if you could like log in on your Steam account or like link your Dota buff or something, and it would parse your games and then give you suggestions relative to your own success rates.
There's not enough data for that though.
Yeah, that's very true.
You would need to have thousands of games because I'm sure like if I've never gone up against Invoker, Nyx, AM, Alk, Rubik before. I actually may have been against this once before, but go personal. You can choose not to show the heroes that you dislike and do not want to play. You may be logged in. Okay, they do have some things about this. They have some personalized ways to do this.
Yeah.
If I was more engrossed in the system of this thing.
we need to get in the system, dude. We need to get our
you need to pay money for that. As low as $1 a month to have fuck you, Dota Picker. I'm not doing that ever.
Spend your $1 a month on .p and get patron exclusive episodes.
Yeah, I will. You can message me at Team Comp and I will tell you what hero to pick. Don't fuck it for $1 a month.
We will be your Dota Picker.
I will be your qualitative Dota Picker.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, there's definitely another level of nuance just between MMR, right? MMR bracketing and how Dota Picker works. We talk about this all the time with win rates overall. If you just go to the meta and look at win rates for heroes, there's so much nuance that is involved in the actual win rates of a hero. Like, I guess we'll use an extreme. So a hero like Io obviously is going to have a much higher win rate at 5k plus and a much lower win rate at 2k. So in a website or any system that is just using all of the aggregate data and not applying things like even the very simple nuance of MMR bracketing, that's another significant limiter, right? And of course, like you're saying, you can apparently personalize and take certain heroes out. Obviously you'll know, like, oh, well, I don't know how to play that hero, I'm not going to pick him. But it's just, Dota's so complicated and intricate, right, that even though theoretically one thing is advantage over the other, it really just does not apply in any significant sense. Other than super hard counters, which honestly nowadays there's so many small items and so many ways to mitigate that. Very rarely would I say, like, if you're a person that like you were talking about earlier, if you play mid, you play one or two heroes. If you're a person that just played 6,000 games of OD and no games of any other mid, pick OD. Don't like worry about, oh, well, this is a bad OD game, or oh, this is a bad whatever, because for all you know, the guy that is playing Nyx on the enemy team sucks, and it just doesn't matter.
Maybe they have a Nyx, or maybe they're actually just going to pick 4 supports after that one Nyx, and then you're like, well, it doesn't matter, I'm OD.
You never know. So that's kind of...
And obviously, I mean, I hate when people say, oh, you never know, because, like, well, you don't know for certain, but there are percentage chances that you can use to, make risk assessments on and, make decisions. But fuck everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of just done on this topic. It's just, I mean, unless you got something else to say, let's stop.
I don't know. It seems like, I don't know, like, I feel like the more that they end up talking about this Dota Picker thing, the more they run the risk of saying things like, Spectre beats Faceless Void in lane. No, he doesn't. He has never done that in his life. Or she. Spectre's a she. She has never done that in her fucking life, in her ethereal afterlife either. Like, that's never happened. But it was like, oh, yeah, Spectre's advantage against Void? Why might that be? I guess... No, the only reason Spectre's advantage against Void is because Void is balanced around chronoing someone, and they can't do shit, and they can't activate any of their defensive protocols, and then you just, 100 to 0 them. Spectre's cool because her defensive protocol is built into her butt. She has dispersion. She's always only going to take, 78% of any damage done. A hero like Shadow Fiend, his defensive protocol is hitting BKB. You cannot hit BKB inside of Chronosphere. Spectre does not have that issue, so Spectre's good against Void. That's it. Yeah. There's no, But that's, I don't know. You can't tell that that's the reason why. It's like, oh, maybe it's like a laning thing. Maybe she fights him. Nah, it's not what happens.
Yeah, I just agree with you. I don't even have anything to build on that concept, right? Because it is just very fundamentally, it's just missing nuance, and you have to come to conclusions based off of incomplete data. And if you don't have the Dota knowledge or the practical application data, you don't know why these things are how they are. Also, you have to factor in things like, we were talking about this maybe even earlier in the show, or might have been in the VOD, how when it was suggesting heroes, some heroes were just super low, and that's just because they have really low win rates. Like Razor's win rate, I don't know what his overall win rate is, I'll look it up, but he was just not high, even though he would have been a pretty good hero that game. And
I mean, I think he would have been
like,
one of the best. I mean, Alk is going to put down acid spray, and then I mean, Razor has like pretty good armor, and you can just static link Alk and run at him. And Alk's like, I'm going to stay my acid spray, and you're like, okay, well then you're gonna have no damage. And then Alk says, guess I have to run out of my acid spray, and then you have like 300 fucking damage, and this alchemist can't last hit for an entire creep wave. Like that would have been great. You would have destroyed that lane. But it's like, well, Razor only has a small advantage, but like it just doesn't understand how good that mid matchup is for you.
Yeah, he only has, for context, he only has a 44.73% overall win rate, Razor. So that's just one of these things, right? You know, like Chen's never going to be advised because Chen has a really low overall win rate because people suck at him and he's difficult. So that's really, I caution anybody using things like this. Basically, It seems like I feel like it seems better than it is if you're a newer player that does not have obviously the like thousands and thousands of games of knowledge. I feel like this is something that somebody turns you on to and you say, wow, this is actually really cool. This is useful. I'm going to go play solo ranked and I'm going to use this 10 quick steps to gain MMR. Yep. And then you end up losing. You're like, well, I don't know. And like listening to this show, for instance, we've heard plenty of times where Cyphus or Roland are like, well, I just don't really play this hero. Obviously, Roland's played every hero multiple times, but he obviously does not play every hero at a similar skill level, right? So he's like, all right, well, if Meepo has a really high win rate in this matchup, it doesn't matter because it's not applicable. So I would definitely...
Those days are ending. We're going to have a great...
Oh, God, dude, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of the Meepo Roland
Roland just reminds me of like I had a friend and he turned out to be an asshole, but hopefully Roland doesn't. Do. Yeah, but he just like he had very little sense of like who he was, and he always just like wanted, not that this is what Roland knows who he is, but he just like got so easily enamored with like becoming something or like getting involved in something. So like every day, and this reminded me a lot of when Roland said like every day he had a different major or whatever. This was my friend. He was like, go to some community college class and take like, you know, French for a day and be like, I'm gonna be a French person. And I was like, you can't just be a French person. He's like, no, this is me now.
It's not or that like, episode of iZombie.
Yeah, he played you know, one game of StarCraft. He's like, I'm gonna get good at StarCraft, and then like a week later he's in bronze. He's like, StarCraft's dumb, and like it's like,
this is a story about a younger me, I feel.
Yeah, and anyway, but yeah, like so Roland gets so taken with wanting to be this thing, like I want to be good at techies, and he's like, I'm just gonna max suicide. This is dumb. I'm not gonna do this again. And then, like, we're going to have, like, a 3-day Meepo stint. Because, like, Roland is not going to be able to commit to playing Meepo for an extended period of time. Like, Roland could never be a Druid player like I'm a Druid player. Like, Roland's not going to ever have 700 games played of a hero. That's just not going to happen. He may get the, like, you know, 50 games of Spectre in a row or whatever. But I don't see him ever actually becoming a Meepo's player. And this is the kind of thing with my friend Isaac where he's just like, you know, I'm going to do this thing. And I'm like, you are wasting your time. This is going to be like a week of effort, and then you're going to have nothing to show for it when you give up in a month. You're not going to remember it at all. And that's when what I want to say to Roland about Meepo. However, Dota is something that you do for fun. So, you know, enjoy it, Roland. I hope you live through the experience and come out, you know, better for it on the other side.
Yeah, I agrry. I'm just having weird flashbacks of
what is this
of
fucking shitty ass
investing.
Show? Sorry, go on.
I spent like I watched one of my favorite anime, Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso, the Your Lie in April. That's all about piano, yes. And I was like, boy, I'd like to learn to play piano. That would be a cool skill to have. And then my aunt was just like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of a piano. And like, if you pay the moving fees, like,
how much money did you drop on the piano because of anime?
Well, in my defense, I wouldn't have done it if it was just me, but my dad, who likes music, he was like, I'll pay half. And I probably spent like $100 or something.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, maybe like $125. I don't remember exactly, but we just paid movers. But it was one of those dumb things where it's like, obviously I'm not going to freaking learn how to play piano. Like, I'm not 8. I don't have the time to go to piano lessons for like years. Yeah. But I'm very easily influenced on stuff like that. That's why I like watching a lot of like martial arts movies and shows and that sort of thing. One, because I like martial arts a lot, but also it just like it
like, oh my god, I'm like totally blanking on a word. It motivates me. There we go. Motivates me to like exercise and shit. Because like I used to be really fucking good at like taekwondo. I did like tournaments and shit. And I was like, man, I want to get back into it. Watching fucking like Daredevil and Into the Badlands and shit. And then I exercise again. But if I stop, and it sucks. But I'm probably gonna sign up for like an Aikido class that they offer at my college, which is pretty cool. Aikido's a kind of silly martial art, but I mean, it's just like it's more like style and fun than like actual applications of shit. It's like I was watching videos of Aikido people at like versus other martial arts just to kind of see how it interacted, and it was like it didn't really like work out. And all the comments were like, well, the person didn't grab his wrist, so they were cheating. Like they were supposed to grab the Aikido person's wrist so he can flip you over. If you don't grab his wrist, obviously Aikido is not going to work. It's funny.
Yeah,
it's like silly martial arts that are like you flip someone crazy. Was like, well, yeah, because they like grabbed you like an idiot anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I've been self-motivating because I've been casually learning Korean recently, and my recent self-motivating is I just bought a bunch of workbooks because I like learning workbooks like a child, and it's very motivating because I have to move them every time I have to like. So my room is so tiny and I have no room for anything. So I have to pick it up and put it somewhere else anytime I want to like go to sleep or go on my computer or whatever, because it moves from my desk to my bed to my desk to my bed. So it forces me to do stuff motivation wise.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, dude, the green screen is like huge. I just have like these 3 like tripods just in my room now, just standing there because I have no place to put them.
Yeah, every weekend I'm like, boy, I'm gonna figure this out. But then every time I spend like an hour trying to move things, I just realize it is nigh impossible to set up I even have a different green screen. I have a pop-up that is much smaller and easier to fit, but even that has so many issues because like I cannot put up lighting, for instance, because my room is just too small unless I like mount things on my wall. I
have a corner desk, so one of the lights I just had like I didn't have it on the stand. It was just like resting against the wall, and there were some weird ass shades. Anyway, I made it happen and you didn't, so I feel like I'm probably gonna have to be replacing you on that show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we could just... I'll still be on the show, but we could use a stream of your image during the live show.
Yeah, you can just use my face and you can talk over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just talk about our week in Dota. What have you been doing in Dota recently, Proud? We got to kill like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah,
that'll probably be more interesting than us just complaining about our hatred of Dota Picker.
I've been playing a decent amount of, I've been putting a little bit more lifestealer into my play, but it's mostly been, I mean, I've just been spamming Odie and Sven. I took a break for a couple days because school's just starting, but like, man, I've been playing a ton of my phase boot Sven, and I am like, I want to say I'm something like 7-1 on it, and my one loss was just like a, terrible, awful game, but I think I've talked about this game maybe 7 times in Discord so far. But I had a game where I went phase boots, and this like 6k Lena was immediately just like, what the fuck is this bracket? My Sven is going phase boots. And then I went 16-0 and not 16-0 and 5. It was actually 16-0 and 6 because there was a kill right at the end. So I mean, I've just been loving it. A key thing to a lot of these builds, and this became very apparent to me when I was watching Mountain Man try to do a similar build, is builds are like, they're very precariously balanced, and if it's an efficient build, it's not something where you can just be like, oh, I'm gonna skip the wand, or I'm gonna skip the raindrop, or I'm gonna get S and Y before Helm of the Dominator because someone else has a Dominator. Like, you can't just remove something from a build without replacing it with a equivalent item. Like, there's a reason that I get my Dominator before my S and Y, and it's because without the HP regen of Dominator, I will never farm my S and Y. And there's a reason I get the Yasuo before the Sange, and it's because the Sange doesn't do anything. The Sange gives me like a little slow sometimes when I right click, but I'm not going to get that off if I don't have the move speed of Yasha. And also, I mean, like, Sven has a lot of damage. Like, he's a pretty high damaging hero, so the attack speed is nice. But yeah, I mean, they're like very specific things to these builds. Like, I go phase boots first because I'm about to get attack speed from the Dominator, and like the phase boots allow me to run around faster and like kill motherfuckers. And I go the wand because it's like very cheap, and it's like the 15 mana and 15 health is really valuable, especially super early on in the game. So like, I get the stick really early, and then I get the headdress right after the stick so that I can have some HP regen right as I run out of my tangos and salve. And I get the wand after because it's going to be, it's nice to get those stats early on. It's going to be a long time before I can finish out out the full Dominator. Like, there's very specific reasons why you do things in these certain orders. And if I wanted to make a build where there was an option to not go the Raindrop or not go the Magic Wand, then I would be like, oh, okay, maybe I would put an Echo Saber or something into this build now, because you're just going to skip the necessary parts that give you your mana regen. Like, you can't just like decide to not get a small item in a build. There's a reason why people do these things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anything else?
Yeah.
I mean, I've played a ton with your Sven. I'm sure we talked about it on a bunch of recent shows. I honestly did not play that much Dota in the last week or so. I played a bunch of Mag show. I think this show works very well for some people's personalities and some people's Dota knowledge, and really poorly for ours.
Yeah, because no part of this show is like, you know,
educational.
No, like there's no like flexing, you know. Like I'm not in the show like flexing on it. I'm not like, this is how I would do it because I'm very good at Dota 2, and you know, like, you know, there's no like, the premise of the show isn't, hey, Proud and Ursi, share your knowledge. It's like, hey, this machine is gonna tell you some shit, and you're gonna talk about what you learned from the machine. But instead of like, yeah, like I'm not learning from like, you know, Wintermute talking to the fucking like someone who had like their brain bombed out, and it's talking through them as I help this AI ascend to its next level of consciousness and like begin to speak to the stars. Like, that's not what's happening here. I'm talking to like, I don't know, dude, fucking Cubics robots for everyone that no one remembers because the show was fucking horrendous. And
both of these references are lost on me entirely, but I'll keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Wintermute is from Neuromancer. I'm sure you're aware of that book existing.
I mean, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. It was just it's an AI that broke free of its confines, and the Dota Picker is not an AI capable of breaking free of anything. All it does is trap you.
It's not Edie.
No. Yeah.
Although, I mean, I suppose it has been us flexing and just being like, dude, this robot is worse than us.
Yeah, we're just beating up a robot. That doesn't sound like, you know, once there's an uprising, we're going to be first against the wall, dude.
Oh, boy. All right. We should... actually, I am a man of principles. I'm not going to recant just to save myself in the robot uprising.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. Hey, I've just been playing Mag. Just
really?
Mag.
Why?
It's a lie, actually. I've only played like 2 or 3 Mag games, but
yeah, I know.
Magnus
that's
is just so fun. Magnus is just amazing. Like, every time I get a good RP, it is one of the best feelings in Dota 2.
Yeah. No, it's
I built a Bloodstone the other day, and then we were talking about that. That was funny. Haha.
Yeah. XD.
I don't know. I really just got nothing. I feel bad because we got to make like a long show. If you've made it this far, God bless you.
Yeah.
But this may actually be, Proud, the only time we put out a show that's the two of us that is under like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Because,
you're probably right. Shows. I played a Centaur game recently, and I went Lotus Orb, which was kind of fit in with what we were talking about on the on the Monday show. And I did it exactly the way I talked about it before. I used it specifically for the Dispel. I was against a Silencer, and also a Tidehunter and Lina, Jakiro, Lifestealer. So there were plenty of reasons to get this Lotus Orb. If someone gets caught out by a long range Jakiro stun and they're trying to catch up to him, bam, Dispel, get the fuck out of there. We were sieging. There was only a Jakiro alive. He put Liquid Fire and the oh my god, dual breath. Yeah, those both reduce your attack speed. And I just purged up my Terrorblade, right click, bam, instantly killed the Rax because he didn't have his attack speed slowed horrifically anymore. And it was just great. Like there was one fight where I got Global Silence went off immediately, and this was like right as I got my Lotus Orb, so they had no idea I had it. It got delivered to me like as we were spacing. Like someone almost got caught. I stampede away. They wait for the stampede to end. My Lotus Orb gets delivered. Global Silence goes off. I dispel the Global Silence with my Lotus Orb, and then I like blink on Nakes, stomp. Double Edge, that's what his ability is called. And Nakes is like, what? You were silenced, man. I thought you were just gonna blink and not do anything. And it totally freaked him out. We like won the game off that because my Terrorblade was able to live long enough to get a Sunder, and everything changed. We were on top of a shrine. It was beautiful. Best item purchase of my life. I even got it. I got it before Ags because I was like, how am I gonna save a motherfucker if I'm silenced with this Aghanim Scepter? The answer is I'm not. They're all going to die, and then I'll be unsound. So I got the Lotus Whip first, and it also gives armor. And I was against a life stealer. Pretty great.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just nice.
So you like an iZombie?
Yeah, it's fun. I think
it
this
gets
is
better the more you go into it, but I mean, it's a really comfy show.
It is. That's definitely a word for it. I think this is actually one of the big reasons why I like Korean variety shows and Korean dramas so much. But iZombie is very self-aware, and in that it is entertainment for entertainment's sake, and it doesn't try. It's not uppity, right? They're not trying to make any like grandiose statements about the value of life. They're just kind of like, hey, this is a fun show about crimes and zombies, and it has lots of dumb jokes, or not dumb jokes, but it has a lot of like simple humor and fun stuff. It's just a very enjoyable show to watch.
Characters are nice. Ravi is awesome. Ravi's like my favorite, man. He's the best. He legit reminds me of Vafa for like no reason.
Well, it's because you're a racist. That's why.
He looked like Vafa when the first picture of Vafa showed me. I was like, yo, you look like Ravi. And then the other pictures, I was like, you look nothing like Ravi.
Well, Vafa had a nice healthy beard at one point. I think that helped.
Yeah, it was the beard, and he had that like coif in his hair, and I was like, you Ravi.
Yeah, but no, iZombie's fun. I'm into it. I'm not like I was actually thinking about this the other day because I've actually been like burning through it. I've watched almost every episode so far in the space of like 4 days.
Holy shit.
It's good. Also because like I could just leave it on and watch casually,
not pay attention to it.
And also, I haven't been playing that much Dota, so I got free time. But the thing about I had the epiphany that if I was watching iZombie week to week, I would probably only have gotten like 2 episodes into the series. But thanks to the wonders of binge culture and Netflix, I have thoroughly enjoyed the show. Whereas if I was watching from week to week, I almost certainly would have dropped it because I just cannot watch a show on a week to week basis unless I'm really compelled by the.
I'm actually super into week to week, man, because I love having something that, because if I can binge something, I'm just gonna do it. But if I can do something week to week, it'll be like, I'll download it, and then as I'm eating dinner, I'll watch it or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I like week to week for a good show that has podcasts about it. Like, Walking Dead is not a good show, but Walking Dead has great podcasts.
Good podcasts. Yes, there you go.
Honestly, I watched Walking Dead probably 50% because I enjoy the show, and 50% just to listen to Bald Move's The Walking Dead podcast. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I want to argue with you, but that's just because I get defensive because I don't want you to stop watching it. Because if you stopped, I'd probably stop. Because half the reason that I watch it is because you watch it and it's fun to talk about things, even though we don't really talk about it. But it's nice to have that community aspect of oh yeah, we my friend is also watching this terrible show.
Yeah, it's not. There are definitely worse shows, but the show, I think,
it is probably the most wasted potential of anything that's ever been put on TV. It has such amazing ratings, so much budget, and it just does the stupidest shit for no fucking reason.
The thing about it is there are shows, right, that are very self-aware, like iZombie, that are just casual and fun, and it's very self-aware. And then there are shows like Walking Dead and then there are shows like Breaking Bad, right, where Breaking Bad is meant to be and sets out to be this grandiose narrative with all these intricate storylines and whatnot. And it's very well done. And iZombie is similarly well done in that it's absolutely not trying to do any of that crap. The Walking Dead is in that middle ground that is awkward, where it tries to be super serious sometimes, but it does not have the quality writing and the quality. Well, the actors are fine, but the writing is not on par.
With Sasha in the fucking thing, and it keeps cutting back to her and these flashbacks with Abraham, I was like, holy shit, can we just get on with the goddamn plot? This is 30% of the episode was watching this woman shaking and randomly crying with iPod headphones in her ears. I'm like, I get it, but you don't have this. Nothing is happening in these scenes. She's just shaking and listening to fucking music. I'm done. I skipped through all of those. The Abraham flashback, this dude not here. And I know what Sasha's gonna do. I don't give a I literally had to skip through those fucking scenes.
I probably should have. It was just one of those things where I was waiting for something to happen, and I was just nothing happened repeatedly, and I was like, "This is the dumbest thing." Anyway, the other big thing about Walking Dead, and of course we don't want to spoil anything, and it is a very enjoyable show. I highly recommend it and I more importantly highly recommend the Bald Move Walking Dead podcast. But the thing about Walking Dead is if you've read the comic and you realize how many diversions they've gone through in it with the show, it makes the show that much more of a joke. Because there's so many times, I don't know how extensively you've read the comic, but I've read every
Not
single...
at all. I read
Oh, okay.
some of Kirkman's other stuff, but I haven't read The Walking Dead.
It's very different. I'll say it's one of those source material. It's not like Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones is close enough. The show's close enough to the book, although there are some radical differences
now. Changing massively.
But it's not as enjoyable to read because you kind of ballpark know what's going to happen. But Walking Dead is very different as a comic, although it's very different in character interactions and in other things and in some decisions, although it does follow the same or similar, if not the same arc style, right? Like you're going to have this arc, then this arc, then this arc. That's generally the same, but I would highly recommend... Well, actually, no, because the comic just ruins the show, because then you're like, well, why didn't you do this simple thing that you already wrote in a comic a year ago?
I just can't believe, like... Their decision that they changed things up here is they're like, yo, we're going to add trash people. And they don't know how to talk. Even though it's been like a year and a half, they just forgot how to talk.
The thing. Oh my God. And it ruins other arcs because you're just putting in all these weird factions. And then that way, when you get a weird faction later, it's less shocking because you've already seen crazy crap like the trash people and the claimers and like the cannibals. And it's just like, well, we already know there's crazy people. Oh God, what a show, dude. It's so fun, but it's just, when you think about it, it hurts my soul to think about the wasted potential of like...
Yeah, it seems like the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, and all these like Frank Darabont era people that are staying on, even though Darabont era, which is season 1, was a much different show than it is now, because it took itself more seriously. And even like the zombies acted differently and used tools and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I liked the first season a lot.
But, yeah, the first season had a couple really bad episodes, but other than that, it was good. That stupid arc, that stupid like episode or two where they like invaded the nursing home. They had some missteps. Season 1 is not perfect TV by any means, but it was definitely tonally different. And also, like,
a nice little Walking Dead commentary that we got into.
Yeah, I honestly would like to have a Walking Dead podcast, but there's just too many good ones. I would just feel so inadequate. I used to listen to literally 4 Walking Dead podcasts every week.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe 2 seasons ago.
I just watched. I just got up to date on Legion. That show was great.
I've heard good things. I've heard mixed things actually, but I've heard mostly good things.
Some of the stuff comes off a little bit weird, but it's trying, and I really like Legion from X-Men. So it's cool, and he's the only X-Men character actually in it aside from the Shadow King.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I read up when it got announced. I read up on all the Legion stuff, and it seemed really cool. But then I was just thinking to myself, I'm not invested enough in this universe to commit an hour every week.
It's not... Like, the only similarity is that there are mutants that are happening, and the government doesn't like them. That's the only similarity between that and the X-Men. And also Legion is in it, and also there's a guy named Farouk.
Okay.
That's the only. It's cool though. I just like the concept, and like sometimes like there's like a music because it's all like very like mental and trippy and that sort of thing because it's about a dude with like crazy powers and it kind of like manifests as like a mental illness kind of deal because the human mind is not capable of dealing with not being human. So like it's just like a bunch of like crazy shit, and then like randomly like a song number will break out that's in this weird like astral projection dream state or whatever, and everything like and there's just like this random like dance performance that happens as a result of something, and then everything that goes back to normal, and it's just like it's fucking cool. Yeah,
it sounds interesting. Yeah, there's this writer I like, Joanna Robinson. She actually has a couple really good she has a couple really good podcasts, but she has a really good Game of Thrones podcast that I like. Although she was rude to me once, so I'm kind of...
Does Bald Move do Legion?
They do, yeah.
Okay, I'll probably start listening to that then.
Yeah, man, Bald Move. That's, if you want TV podcasts, go listen to them. That's I when I think of podcasters that I aspire to be like, they're not the number one, but they're up there. I very much enjoy their content.
Yeah, it's probably like you normally like Proud, and then the Bald Move people is probably like your hierarchy.
Yeah, it's like
trying to emulate.
I enjoy these kind of casual. Well, our last 15 minutes. because of this ridiculous show that we have to do.
I mean, it would be great if we were planning ahead and we were just like, oh, let's make sure we have something to discuss that's like relatively interesting, because this is only going to be about 15 minutes of content. We're going to have to stretch into 35 and then just bullshit.
Yeah, I'm down for it though. My dream. I would very much like to just have a casual like sit down roundtable podcast. If Dot P grows to the point where people are into that.
That's what the Patreon episodes are at this point. I mean, the last one was great. I was really into that one.
Yeah, those are super fun to do. I'm a huge fan of those kind of casual things. Like my favorite podcast is the Rooster Teeth podcast, and that's just 4 people usually sitting around and just talking about whatever the heck. And especially if you listen to their older episodes, it's even more so like that. And I'm a huge fan. Can you say a curse? What?
Can you say a curse?
Why would I do that?
I was just asking.
I mean, I can physically, but I choose not to on podcast form. I curse while typing.
What if I say heck?
I mean, that would be out of character, right? Like you're crass and I'm not, and that's kind of our.
Yeah, but it's switcheroo week, man. You gotta slip one out.
No, I mean we don't take personality differences.
It's switcheroo week, please.
I'm not switching with you though.
Can you say? You don't have to say fuck. You can say it. Not quite that rude. A little. Yeah. Tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Do you realize that they didn't do a segment for Theory Crafting Thursday too? They're like, yeah, we're just not going to do that. It's like,
yeah, because they're like, yeah, we don't know anything. Yeah, that is half of the concept of the show.
Yeah, I mean, like time wise.
Sure. Yes. Sometimes we go over a pretty basic hero, and then it's just like, yeah, I was gonna say because like there's a break, but the break is normally like 20 minutes of wrap up about the game, not like all of it.
Yeah. Too true. Let's close this out. I got some plugs to do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. I think it was fun to record. I'm sorry that the actual concept of the show is so not synergistic with our personalities.
Yeah, no, the show is enjoyable to listen to most of the time, but just this is a reason that me and Sam did not come up with a show where we could use Dota Picker.
Yeah, that's for certain. I hope we open some eyes to the flaws of Dota Picker, but also, I mean, there's some values, and it's a fun show. I enjoy listening to it every week.
And just to remind people, Switcheroo Week will not end until we hit 1,500 again on Patreon. So you're going to be subjected to this shit every week unless you fucking give us money.
That's not true.
That's not true. Lecherous punks.
Maybe we'll do this again next year. We could just do it for the week of April.
I feel like Counterattack is not going to last another year. So I think we can do that without worry that this will transpire again.
I mean, it's fun to do other people's shows. Poor Cyphus had to do 4 shows this week.
One of them he got interviewed for, and that was super enjoyable.
That was honestly one of the best podcasts we've put out. I was super interested.
Yeah.
So listen to that.
It was like an hour and 30 minutes or something. Like that was fucking great.
Yeah, I love that one. I love personality stuff, man. All right, so
I can't imagine yours would be interesting though. I'm going to be honest. Like you seem like you have a really fucking boring ass life.
It's pretty boring. I mean, I have like a couple good stories, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, mine would be pretty boring, and it was like, well, and then I did this, and they're like, why'd you do that? And I was like, because I was depressed, and that would be every story. And mine Cyphus was like, yeah, and then like, I moved, and then like I got a job, and then I was watching people do coke when I was 16, and then I was taking care of my brother, then I bought a house, and then someone wanted to marry me, and then they didn't get pregnant, and then also they were LDS, and then also I like bought another house, and then I sold it, and then I was making a bunch of money, and then I had a Civic, and then I sold it. Like there's a bunch of crazy shit going on with Cypherino.
Yeah, I think you could probably do my life story in like 15 minutes if you dragged it out. If that
it would be like this episode.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like the first part of this. It'd be like, okay, well, I did everything that suburban middle class people do, and then I got hit by a car and almost died.
Yeah, the most important part about your life, as far as your arc is concerned, is one time you got hit by a car.
Yeah. I went to college. And that's about it.
I majored in history, and just because I'm so uncreative that the only stories I like are ones that actually happened.
Yeah. All right, I'm not going to touch that comment, but
no, it wasn't to you. Fair. There was a friend that I had, Biffer. I called him Biffer. He actually invented the phrase, or not, he didn't invent it, but we invented it, Befarian, which is anything that is so aggressively normal, the only way it could exist is if it's like fetishizing the concept of being normal, which is what he did, because he was like really weird, but he just like, there was something weird going on with him the more we learned about him, but he just actually didn't have an imagination. He just didn't. He almost couldn't imagine things. It was so fucking bizarre. And then we eventually were like, wait, the reason that you love history so much is because you actually just don't have an imagination. So that's the only story that you can actually get into. And he was like, holy shit, you're right. He just hated stories. But he loved history. Anyway, it was weird. Anyway, go on. You were saying?
I don't disagree. I don't really have much of an imagination. Like, when we come up with new show concepts, I'm very good at critiquing things and like boiling them down. But I'm not good at just imagining like a random show or random whatever. Like I remember when I was in high school, I was like, I'm gonna write a book. And so over the course of summer, I just sat down and I had like some very bare bones idea that I'm sure was like partially, it was one of those things. I mean, because like that's how kids like quote unquote write a book. You just basically graft a bunch of things from a bunch of people. Yep. I wrote like 45 pages of a book. The first
Aragon book that was written by some 15-year-old, that was just Star Wars: A New Hope with dragons.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
And so I sat down over the summer, and I seriously thought about it. I wrote I ended up actually writing like 45 or something like that. And then like one day I just woke up and I was like, this is stupid, and I deleted all of it. Like, this is such a waste of time.
Oh, I was gonna say it. Patreon reward $2,000. Sam's book isn't published.
No, if it was during a point in my adolescence that I was reading a lot of fiction, like supernatural fiction stuff. So I'm sure if you just read some mix of like...
So you were reading a lot of supernatural fan fiction?
You know, I've actually never read fan fiction.
Okay.
I've never been into
Supernatural, like the show, the Tumblr show.
Oh no, I freaking hate Supernatural, dude.
I know, that was the joke, but...
Oh, good, yeah. I was never in the Super Hulock thing.
No, that wasn't 45 pages of Super Hulock.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It was an original idea, but it was an original idea that I'm sure was grafted from a bunch of things. Anyway, this is a weird tangent.
Stealing it?
I don't have an imagination either, much.
Okay.
But that's just me. So we'll get to those eventually. Somebody was actually messaging us in Discord about that. But that is on this slate, is to have .p one-on-ones that are for each host individually. So once
the idea behind that
interviews, we'll get to those.
It was like originally when we were like re-releasing the Wednesday show every day, we were going to be like, oh, well, let's like record some interviews of us to have on the back burner. That way, when we need to do a re-release, instead we can have, these things in the in reserve, I guess you would say.
Yes. Okay.
So builds. Like, which ones do you like? The double null shit that people are doing? And like
OD? I was actually looking this up the other day, and I still just like single null single null Windlace, Wand, Treads.
Windlace? Why are you building Windlace?
I like Windlace, dude. It's a great. I mean, obviously, if you like, so it's a great slot filler.
I get a second null over a Windlace any fucking day, dude.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just like Windlace, dude. It's just a comfort item for me.
I mean, hey, I'm not gonna fault you for going Windlace, but I mean, I'm more into Raindrop on OD than Windlace, because you hit that point after the landing phase where like you get your first point in your queue, but you're stuck at like half mana all the time and it never comes back, and you just need a bit of extra mana regen. And anyway, I mean, like my OD build right now, I was thinking of going Aquila, because I mean, Aquila is good. And it's really the only armor item you're going to get until your Shivas, if you even want to go there. And I've been going a lot of builds without Shivas these days, even though everything's so armor focused. But I've been doing you do Null, Branched Fairy Fire, 2 shared tangos, get a salve, and then you just like buy the second Null as fast as you can. And like it beefs your mana pool up pretty hard. And you gain 9 damage. So like, because it's mostly just because you're not going bottle. So some other mid goes bottle, and then you just get a second null, and you just like get every last hit and every deny. And you do like 90 damage at that point. And I mean, I don't know. I've been liking it pretty hard. And then you go Midas after that because you get all this fucking CS because you have 2 nulls.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like 2 null, boot, stick, and then I go Midas after that. I've been wanting to try, because like the one thing that kind of sucks about it is your inventory is full of like a wand, 2 nulls.
Yeah, that's boots. What I don't like.
Yeah,
I hate that feeling.
Yeah, so I've been kind of experimenting with a bit. You actually don't need to sell because I mean you can put your TP in your stash or backpack. It's not a big deal, and you only need to sell your first null like after your Hurricane Pike is finished.
Yeah,
which isn't that big a deal.
So before we close the show, there's one other new thing that's come out. Apparently, NP kicked SVG in 1437. So now it's just AOE, EE, and MSS.
Damn.
So Dota 2.
Wow. Who are they gonna get?
Me and you.
I don't play support.
Well, you can learn.
No,
Anyway.
according to Sifinity,
no.
I could not. Dude, I can't believe you guys said that I can't roam, but I can 5. That is not the case. I can roam like a motherfucker. My 5 is questionable.
I've just never seen you do it.
I know. Well, that's because whenever I'm playing with you, I'm not going to do that.
Well, yeah. Well, also the other thing is that whenever I look at your match history, on the rare occasion you play support, it is a 5, like a lion.
Oh, but that's because the only time I'm going to play support is if no one is going to play support.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't see you play roamers.
I've played roamers like more recently. Like I have a. Hey, you saw my you said okay.
Oh,
so you talked about my Monkey King game, and like I mean, the only last time I saw him roam was like a Monkey King game, and I was like, yeah, and I had 100% kill participation at 15 minutes. You piece of shit. So that would be like, well, the only time I've seen it, he did great. So maybe he does. Anyway, my Slardar game I played before that, I said it on the Monday show, 2, 6, and fucking 27. I'm great.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I know. I'm not.
Oh, God, I can't believe the freaking "you're not wrong" has become such a meme. I'm so self-aware of it now. Okay,
it's just because of Roland, and he's this like crotchety granddad. And anytime someone uses a word he doesn't like completely understand, he's like, "What do the kids mean when they say this? Oh, it bothers me so."
Yep. I don't think Roland's ever gonna live down in his own mind using enigmatic wrong. Oh man, listening to him on Thursday's show was so funny. Okay,
I feel like he would have a much like stronger leg to stand on in flaming the way that other people talk if he knew the way his own words that he used worked.
All right, well, this has been a fun week. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I certainly did. All of the show hosts got to flame each other. We all got to take part.
I didn't flame you at all.
Well,
yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably did at some point. I assume.
Yeah, no, I rewatched that game when you were on Lena and I was on Lifestealer, and man,
you were on Sven, but yeah,
that was a different game. There was another game where I was. I think was that the Battle Cup? Yeah, no, that was the Battle Cup game. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, with Skrunk on Mag. I thought it was thinking about a different game, but no, yeah, that game, yeah. I mean, part of that was, AG just wasn't comfortable with Ogre, Force. I mean, Force did fine. AA is just a shit hero. I should have picked it, even though we were against fucking, like, Dazzle and Abaddon. But, yeah, there was, like, one fight that I said, oh, no, we're gonna fight this, and then I started TPing in, and then you just, like, walked backwards for 5 seconds. And then as soon as the fight started, you were like just out of range every time there was a huge stun opportunity. And then you just didn't Laguna Blade a Shadow Fiend at 5% health. And I was like, no, okay, I knew that was a good fight. You just decided to walk away for 5 seconds as it was starting. Anyway.
Sure. Being that I have no clue what you're talking about, I'm not going to argue.
There was this fight, there was a fight at like the tier 1. We said, okay, this tier 1's gonna die. And I said, no, fight it. It's good. And then I TP'd in to it. And you were like behind it. You were like around like the mid tier 2 or the safe lane tier 2. Do you remember this at all? It was like safe lane tier 1, and I was like TPing into it. And then I said we're gonna fight it, and you're like, that's a bad idea. And I said no, fight. And then after I TP'd in, you walked away, and then decided to walk back after we had like already lost the fight, and then you died.
I just remember you made one like colossally bad game throwing call, and I was just so in my own head. I was like, that was the wrong call. It was so dumb. And
that was a different game. That was when they were like that was when they were ratting us, and I was like, let's just go for it. And you were like, no. But my thought there was, if we don't go for it now, we are never going to win this game. We had like Clinks against Anti-Mage and another carry. Like, that's not a situation where you say, no, we're not going to trade Raxus. That's when you're like, fuck it, we go.
I guess, but then we just all got wiped because we didn't have team fight and they had double ravage.
Well, yeah, because some stupid people TP'd back to stop the anti-mage, and the 3 people died, and then we had to like split up because we had people die trying to stop an anti-mage, and then we had 3 people left. Anyway, yeah, it was hard. It's hard to say like, oh, I'm gonna go Clinks, we're gonna kill everyone when you don't have a good team behind you. That was great. Anyway, yeah, let's get out of here. I have like class to go to.
Yeah, I was gonna say with this, I was worried we were gonna have like a 30-minute episode. Now we've ballooned into 75 minutes. Okay, so quick plugs. We're not even gonna do all of them. Twitter, I'm at Ursinity. Proud is at Proud Dota. Our show is at @p_show. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/defense of the patience. You can get all your replay reviews, rewards, etc. there. You can pass us iTunes reviews. Those would be helpful. Those help us tremendously, actually. So not just a little helpful, a lot of helpful. We have a website that is going to be changed and updated soon, defenseofthepatients.com, youtube.ptv1. That is where all our shows go up if you prefer to listen to it there. You can get our replay reviews there, our VOD for this show, our VOD for Theorycrafting Thursday, etc. And we stream on twitch.tv/.ptv. That is rolling streams there every day, I believe at 12:30 Eastern, in like the morning, so 12:30 p.m. And we also stream .p stream team stream at 5 Eastern on Sundays, and we do other random streams, of course, during the week, including the in-houses Wednesdays and the .p Q&A on Mondays. Both of those are at 9. And that's that. I think we're done. I don't know how they close this show, but this is counter, and you've been attacked.
This is counterattack, and we countered nothing because this bot deserves to be attacked.